Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Film Appreciation Podcast. I'm your host, Nick, and as always, I'm joined by my fantabulous co-hosts, Marlon and Isaac.
Goodness.
Making up words now.
Yep.
It's like a word that a year 6 would say.
I suppose that's what happens when you're 21 episodes in.
7 years ago was our last episode, and we're finally back. I didn't actually think we would have this long of a break, but
Well, there's been exams. You went overseas.
correct.
And
but-
then what happened?
And then this, December, we've
got a
just
bit
been
lazy.
Just decay.
just fucking around,
But
basically.
like all good things, FAPS returns,
Yep.
and we return with some interesting films.
Some interesting films that you probably have already seen and no longer care about
Yeah.
because we're like a month late to the
And-
party.
10 videos on it.
Yeah.
To begin with, we have Ridley Scott's Gladiator II,
Yeah.
starring Paul Mescal, Denzel Washington, and Pedro Pascal, among a few other big names.
Correct.
Essentially, it follows Lucius, the illegitimate son of Maximus, who gets captured by the Romans and then works his way up the ranks as a gladiator to save Rome
Yep.
from two gay twink emperors.
Correct.
And I don't know if you
And
know,
Denzel Washington.
But obviously, Paul Mescal's character is playing. What's his name from the first movie?
Lucius from the first movie.
He's whose kid is he? He's
He's
Goodman's kid.
Lucilla's
And
kid.
Max-
Lucilla and Maximus's
Yeah.
kid. So yeah, the illegitimate son of
Yes.
But that was
Maximus.
not revealed in the first movie.
Yeah.
You just
No.
know from this one that they
Yeah.
had some sort of affair.
And
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal is also married to Lucilla.
And he plays Acacius.
Yes, an
Who-
awesome character.
Correct. As usual, we can just get right into it before we say whether we liked it or not, but just Pedro Pascal, two things. One, always just the biggest weapon in any movie. Dude's a fucking legend. And then always gets killed in
Yeah.
every movie. So I was sitting there with Bowie, he's sitting next to me, and I'm just going, Pedro's just going to die. Right at the start, I was like, he's just going to die because he dies in everything. Like
Oberyn.
he's going to die in The Last of Us. He died in
What was that shit movie?
Kingsman.
At the start of the year?
He died in Kingsman. He died in Great Wall. He died in Drive-Away
Yeah,
Dolls.
Driveway Dolls.
He died
I thought he was in
in.
it.
Yeah, gets decapitated straight away.
He died in The Equalizer. He just dies. That's just what he's good at. He just dies in everything. And as I predicted, he gets killed. But I digress. Did we like the movie? We can get to.
I think Marlon
Pedro
and I
now.
have a similar opinion of it.
Yeah, so it was certainly fun, and it chugged along quite well considering its length. It's 2.25 hours or something.
Yeah.
Went by in a flash.
Yeah.
Was enjoyable, great fun, happy to watch. Would probably watch it again in a year or so just for an easygoing, relaxing film. But my biggest problem is it takes no risks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's also not very interesting.
Yeah, it's very simple,
Yeah.
Kind of like forget the entire
It's like eating vanilla ice cream.
predictable
Yeah.
premise. Yeah, it's safe.
Yep.
Vanilla ice cream, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I also don't know if
essentially.
I'm right about this, but it really did just kind of feel like it used the exact same structure
You did say that.
as the
yeah.
first one. At least, it obviously doesn't do everything the same, but it's the same sort of like story path,
Yeah.
and even like the sort of scenes that they use. It almost seems like they just couldn't be bothered to.
Come up with something new.
Yeah.
And when Ridley Scott's churning out films like he is with Alien this and Napoleon
He's
that.
he's making a movie like every year, and that's just a bit. I
And
don't
they're
know.
all just average blockbusters.
He's
Unfortunately.
doing quantity over quality, which I remember when Killers of the Flower Moon was coming out and Napoleon was coming out at the same time.
We had a similar discussion.
Yeah, Ridley was interviewed and was criticizing Scorsese for taking like 5 years apiece with every movie. He's like, I could have made 4 movies in that time. And I'm like, yeah, but Killers of the Flower Moon's better than all 4 of your movies combined.
Yeah.
So I'd rather wait 5 years and get something good.
Did you enjoy the film?
I did enjoy the film quite a bit, but the more I've thought about it, the more I've started to not like it. I think the more you actually analyze it in any degree, it becomes a bit dumb.
Yeah,
It's
weak.
It's a very paper thin, full of conveniences, and sort of there's elements to it that are rushed. And I would also say that it didn't need to exist.
Yeah.
Like you can watch Gladiator 1 and you won't get anything else from this one. It's kind of like just watching it for, if you really like Gladiator and you just want more of that world, you could watch this one.
Oh, yeah.
But I was actually having this conversation with my stepdad about it, which is that to me, the first movie was made like with a lot of artistic intention and was made to be like a piece of art, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I think, was made just for entertainment purposes, which for me, and I think that's quite clear, for me, makes me more forgiving of it because I don't think it's trying to be the first one. I think it's just trying to be fun and like a movie that you can eat popcorn to.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one, I would say, is more of a, wow, this is cinema, Scorsese hands.
Well, yeah, my parents took my 10-year-old brother to it as something just to satisfy
really?
satisfy that
Probably a bit violent. For
satisfy that
10-year-old.
war
Is that-
sort of lust.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because my little brother loves war films and all sorts of fighting
pretty
and
awesome.
stuff.
Right.
And so, yeah, mum and dad took him to that. And they
Sure.
enjoyed it, but very similar critique even.
Yeah.
Simple, fun.
Like it is fun, but it's also just really stupid.
Yeah, I know.
And there's too much. There's too much going on. Like when you think about the first one, you basically just had Maximus, Commodus, and that's kind of it in terms of the main characters. But this one you got like Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, his mum,
Who's the slaver who's trying
Denzel
to-
Washington.
Denzel Washington.
But what's his name?
Macrinus.
Yeah, Macrinus.
Macrinus. So he's trying to also overtake Rome.
And that's one aspect that I appreciated about it was it did go bigger. There was more scale. Like the Colosseum things were all bigger.
There were sharks.
Yeah.
The ending was
The water
like
scene.
lots of soldiers and more dramatic, which was entertaining, but also was messy at the same time. Like it just seemed like shit was happening, and everything was happening so quickly that I didn't care about anything that was happening.
Yeah.
Like everything with his mum at the end was so rushed that by the time she cops an arrow to the chest, I just didn't give a shit.
Also, she was a terrible actor.
Oh,
She was
wow.
very bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, you
Very,
talk
very
about
bad.
you talk about rushed, and the sort of catalyst for the film is Lucius's wife in Nubia dying,
Yeah.
right? And that sparks him going on this big revenge thing through the Gladiator to overtake Rome or save Rome,
Yeah.
like his father tried to do,
Yeah.
from how it's falling into disrepute and disrepair. But that happens immediately. There's no tension or build up to their relationship and the gravity of him losing her. Obviously,
I actually think it's kind of funny when she dies.
well, but that's the problem,
Because
right?
you're
is
like,
it-
you know what's going to happen. You're like,
yeah, because they
So
do those
obvious.
like long lingering shots over her
And they do like
eyes.
they do the classic trope of like, I give you this, you give, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
keep this of me.
There's
And
nothing
Yeah.
interesting happening there. It's just
But-
total cliche.
whereas in the first Gladiator, you spend half the film with his family still being alive.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
and
takes a
there's
long
that
time
hope.
for him to become.
Yeah, and there's literally a whole journey of him trying to get back in time, and there's that sort of parallel between the enemies getting to them and him, and he returns just as they've been charred to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
Whereas this
brutal.
is you're getting invaded,
and
black
that's
dead.
and that's what I mean when
Better
I
go
say that
do
clearly this one was just made to entertain because they're like, fuck the story, we're just going to get to the Colosseum as quickly as possible so he can fight aid monkeys and sharks and rhinos and all sorts of insane shit. But everything about it was so paper thin. Like I like Paul Mescal in general because normal people, After Sun,
Normal People and
different
After Sun.
different
Bangers.
shit that he's in. Like he's a great actor, and so I naturally just enjoy his presence. But his character, I didn't care about in the slightest.
He also, I feel like, isn't at that Russell Crowe level of like
Yeah.
No.
aura, you know?
Well, that's it. Like that's a big thing. Is I think there's probably no actor that could,
Yeah.
or almost no. You'd have to make a
Just
really
even,
good
like,
case.
the delivery of lines, just Paul Mescal comes across way less powerful. He just seems a lot more meek, you know?
Yeah. Well, I hate to
And I
use.
think that's
I
just
hate
because
to
he's
use.
Irish, bro.
Yeah, I hate to use the. But that's it.
Literally.
That's it. So you've got this sort of naturally more scrawny Irish guy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's not as built in the first place as Crow was. Or
No,
anything
but
like that.
but compared to this enormous Aussie, fucking built Russell Crowe,
Who
who
was-
was tall, black hair, this fuck,
who was an enigma at the time and one of the most famous actors in the world. You know, Paul Mescal is that.
But that's what you got to think about, like as well.
He's like a totally different vibe.
Exactly.
But he's
like
but he's a big indie actor. Like Russell Crowe, he was coming off of shit like LA Confidential, where he plays this tough as nails,
Detective.
hates women beating cop who just
He plays tough characters.
who beats the shit out of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Paul Mescal comes from I love you, man.
Yeah.
you know,
He
characters.
plays fragile men.
Yeah, literally.
Like you've got to think
that's
about that.
actually exactly right. Yeah.
You gotta think about this. Like, you could just compare that. His last big movie was All of Us Strangers.
Where he
Pascal.
plays a gay man with
A gay
mental
man
health issues.
kills himself.
who dies
Yeah.
or some shit. Compared to one of Russell Crowe's last big movies was LA Confidential before
Yeah.
Gladiator, where he played this cop who beat the shit out of everyone and
Yeah.
was like feared in the police force
Chalk
for
and
being
cheese.
brutal, you know.
Yeah.
And also, you just got to compare like
ultra masculine character. And it's
like when I watch it, even though I just love Paul Mescal and I'm happy to go along for the ride, I'm thinking, I don't think Paul Mescal is beating up these people.
Well,
there's no way this guy is beating these people up. Whereas Russell Crowe, I'm like, yeah, that guy'd fuck
And that's
people
the thing.
up.
He does an okay job, and the film shows that he is weaker at points. You know, because
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal's character is winning the fight.
Yes.
Before he gets assassinated
Yep.
from the crowd and all
Yeah.
these things, but he does an okay job, and that's it. It's not bad. It's not good.
But
And
again,
it's not convincing is the problem.
And you just got to compare, like, Gladiator 1, it won Best Picture.
Yep.
It won Russell Crowe Best Actor. Like, that's how good he was in that movie at capturing that. But he was also, like, still fragile. There were moments where he would, break down
Yeah.
and stuff. But there was just so much, like, subtlety to his performance. Like, you take the opening scene of the first movie to the second movie. Like, Paul Mescal's just in this battle. He's just sort of standing there and he goes, I love you, to his woman. By comparison, Russell Crowe, there's that famous scene
With
where
his hand drifting through the reeds.
there's that, and then there's the famous sort of story where he talks about how on the first day they were shooting this scene right before the battle, and Ridley gave him this direction where he goes, you're going to be looking at the battle, and then all of a sudden a little bird is going to fly down a tree before you, and you're going to look at this bird, and it's going to make you happy, and it's going to fly away, and you're going to watch it fly, and as it flies away, it draws your attention back to the battle, and you re-zone in. And he did it on first take, and it's such a subtle, interesting painting of his character where in all this brutality he can still see the beauty in it, and it's very subtle and very excellent acting, and I'm like, that is a really interesting way to set up a character. That plus, as you said, the opening hand thing. Paul Mescal is just, what was he holding, like rice, and then all of a sudden boom, he's in this fucking huge onslaught battle.
Well, that's where, as you said, the art comes into the first film. It takes its time to linger on the soft moments or the intimate moments, and it gives the chance for those relationships to be developed with the family. Whereas this one jumps in and destroys it straight away.
But it handled it with subtlety. Like, bigger doesn't mean better. And even though, like, for example, the fights in the first one, like in the Colosseum, may not be as grand or perhaps even as entertaining, they're more gritty and realistic and stuff. And so I think you still get more out of that. But I was going to say, in terms of the whole film, the best thing that it does for me was Pedro Pascal's character, because I think his character was the only one written with a lot of subtlety.
Well, yeah, he's the one that's put in the most compromising position.
That's right. But he's written. You would expect him just to be the generic villain. It starts off, oh, this guy, what a dick. But then they spend the whole movie actually making him, I find, the most sympathetic character. That when he eventually fought Lucius in the arena, I was rooting for Pedro. Like, I didn't want him to kill Lucius, but I was just hoping that Pedro got out of it alive. And that he was better than Lucius, which I thought was amazing.
Well,
he was just kicking the shit out of him.
Understandably.
So I don't think we said he's the general.
Yeah.
The first general in the Roman army.
Yeah.
And he's beloved by everyone, and he's
Correct.
the best.
And he has to just follow the orders of the tyrant emperors.
Yeah. And so his position is that, Lucilla finds out that Lucius is this new gladiator coming through the ranks, and she tells him. And so he's put in the position of he sort of throws away his position in Rome or utilizes it to save someone that is most likely going to die. And so it's that choice, and then he obviously goes through with doing what Lucilla asks of him, and the love for her, and then also, as part of that, the love for Lucius. And that's where you get that tension in the battle of him holding back, sort of, but then still overpowering Lucius and then dying. And so you're right, he is the most well-written, developed character, and he played the best as well.
And that's it. Like, there's not as much good tension written into the different relationships between all the characters. So anytime Russell Crowe was fighting in the first movie, Commodus would be right there, and there was so much tension between them that was palpable. Whereas in this one, that Paul Mescal has no relationship to the two emperors, and so when he's interacting with them, you don't care. You're just like, whatever. And he doesn't end up killing either of them.
No.
And the other thing is, his relationship is to Pedro Pascal's character.
Yeah, because he kills...
But then it turns out he's not even a bad guy, so there's really no tension at all.
Well, because Pedro orders the death of Paul's wife or Lucius's wife at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
Because
But
she.
of course,
But it was in the chaos of the battle.
Yeah,
you know,
there's no sort of personal
Yeah.
grudge to
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
Whereas in Joaquin Phoenix assassinated his father, who meant
Yeah.
everything to Maximus, and so that was a very deep. And then obviously went off and did a bunch of shit to Maximus's family.
Yeah.
I did find the Emperors interesting only insofar as they're basically like very clearly inspired by Joaquin Phoenix's performance, I think. That very over the top theater like
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah,
They're funny, I find, in parts. You
Yeah.
know. But
they were just
shallow.
like exactly. But I don't find them memorable.
No.
And even though they filled the space they needed to fill, it's not like you look back on it and go, "Wow, what a great villain." Whereas Joaquin Phoenix was a
Yeah.
great villain, and it's like the comparison that people make between the original Star Wars trilogy and the prequels, where Vader takes up the whole trilogy, whereas in the prequels it's like Dooku, Darth Maul, General Grievous, and the three of them
Palpatine.
aren't as intimidating as Darth Vader
Yeah.
because none of them are given enough time to really shine through the whole thing.
Well, yeah, they're each killed in every consecutive one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas, and even though like Joaquin Phoenix was only around for one movie, they gave him, as you say, that whole setup. I think might be the most crucial part of the movie was the start and how well the first movie does at setting up everything and making you care and building up to things later.
Yeah.
Whereas this one doesn't have build up. You're just kind of on this crazy freight train of endless action, which is entertaining, but it's meaningless entertainment.
Yeah, the presence of Marcus Aurelius in the first one is actually like very important, I think.
Yeah.
Because it sets up literally all of the characters' relations are connected to him.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie, they're all sort of disjointed. And they have some relation, obviously, but it's not as powerful, I think.
Well, yeah, it's all sort of colliding motives for Rome, whereas Marcus Aurelius picks Maximus over Commodus, etc., and it's a personal grudge. Where these are all for their own different reasons.
Yeah, even like again, this Slaver character, like he just wants to become
Denzel Washington, he just wants
Denzel
to be
Washington just
all
wants to-
powerful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not very interesting.
And that was what I found fascinating was that Pedro Pascal's character, like it's not the most amazing acting Pedro's ever done, but his character was easily written the best. But when we went in, I was told that Denzel really steals the movie. Like in his, but I didn't find that at all.
He just has a sort of strange swagger.
He's just having the most fun with it. Like I would
Yeah.
say he's got the most engaging performance,
Yeah.
maybe. But his character is not particularly well realized.
Yeah, those scenes just made me think of Megalopolis. Like
A little bit.
even
a
like
little
the
bit.
way they're done, like the sort of other guy who's like in debt to Denzel Washington's character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And,
the
like
politician.
how goofy it is and shit just felt very like I don't know. It sort of felt way different to the vibe of the rest of the movie because it just wasn't serious at all.
No.
Like when he puts the monkey as his second in command or whatever.
Oh yeah.
It's like that's hilarious, but yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Is there anything else to cover?
Not particularly. Short and sweet.
No, it's like as I said, I think you could pick holes in it to death, which I don't really think is necessary because again, it's clearly not trying.
entertaining.
It's not trying to be an equivalent to Gladiator 1. I think it's just a fun movie, and again, like if you go in there and switch your brain off, you're gonna have a good time, and that's kind of what I was doing. I was just like letting it happen. And when I got out of the movie and over the coming days, I kept thinking about this is a little bit of a problem, this and that, but overall, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, there's really good action in it. You know, everyone does their job. It's fine. It's all right.
I agree.
I also did like the scene when Paul Mescal is like they're practicing like they're rowing,
Yeah.
and then I can't remember. Does he say something?
And then they make him
and
do
they
it
make
for
him just do it
ages.
the whole night.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Like you
Just-
said, it was easy.
Yeah, imagine,
something along those lines.
Imagine being that much of a badass.
Fucking having to row into sand as well.
Yeah.
Gravel would be.
Yeah, but it was with a wooden block at the end,
Yeah.
so it'd be like so hard to fucking
Yeah.
row that shit.
Balance. Anyway,
I'd give it a 6. I'm gonna give it a 6.
I'm at a 5, a 2.5,
Right. Okay.
borderline 6, but
I think it's I'll give it a 6 as well.
there we go.
Yep.
I think it's fair.
Sweet. Well,
Up
we'll
next,
move-
Sabrina Carpenter and Nonsense Christmas special.
Oh, brilliant movie.
Yeah, Barry. Of all the people here, he would be the last one that I think would watch that. I don't know why, and he is the one who's seen it.
It wasn't by choice really. It was sort of like
through
coerced
osmosis.
into it.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
No, we're not doing Sabrina Carpenter, thank God. We're doing Heretic, which is a new horror thriller thing by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. And it stars Hugh Grant and I don't have the cast list pulled up, but
Hugh Grant and some other...
these two
Hugh Grant,
women
Sophie
who are-
Thatcher and Chloe East.
There you go, those chicks. And the two women, what are their names? Give it again.
Sophie Thatcher is the dark-haired
Sophie and
lady.
Chloe, that's all we'll have to say.
Sophie Chloe.
So Sophie and Chloe basically play these two Mormon missionaries who are going around their little town and trying to convince people to join their church.
Sister Barnes and Sister
Yes,
Paxton.
Barnes and Paxton.
Barnes all right, fine, we'll go with that. Barnes and Paxton. And then they turn up at Hugh Grant's house. What's his name?
Mr. Reed.
Mr. Reed. They turn up at Mr. Reed's house, and they're like, "Yo, join our church, fool."
Have
and
you heard the word of the Lord?
And Hugh Grant's like, "Yep, I'm totally down to
Come on
be
in.
be a Mormon," and he invites them in, and then immediately things are shifty. He's got a weird front door. He's got weird candles.
His wife is supposed to be there, but she's in the other room.
She's supposed to be making pie.
Yeah,
and,
was Blueberry Pie?
yeah, and she totally isn't.
And then he whips out like a 1,000-page Book of Mormon that's fully annotated.
Yeah. And clearly this guy's very interested in religion. And what is very fascinating is that I would say even first half of this whole movie is not, it's purely a battle of ideologies. And it's not, there's no sort of, there's a lot of tension.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
and it is
there is
thrilling.
fear.
There's thrilling to watch, but it's a sizzling thriller. Later it escalates. Someone sort of described it like it was Barbarian. I don't know if either of you saw Barbarian.
haven't.
Barbarian's great. It fucked me up. It was a really cooked movie, but it's very similar to that. Anyway, what do we think? Go.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. We'll get, I think, into more details in terms of the sort of what the critique is, what the movie's actually saying. But I just think from a structure standpoint, I really liked how it was set up. I liked how the start sort of just kind of feels like this character tension, you know, like, oh, is he a bad guy? Is he going to fucking kill us?
Or is he just a bit odd?
Or is he just odd? And then,
Yeah, and
and you don't want
quirky.
to offend him, and then it obviously builds and builds, and then they get into. And I also liked the sort of setup of different rooms that they were like.
Yeah.
It felt like a board game or something. You know,
Yeah.
it was pretty interesting.
Well, then, yeah.
And then I mean, you get to the end. The ending is probably its weakest
Yeah,
sort
agreed.
of part, but apart from that, it was great.
Because I found it was, in general, really subverting a lot of the cliches of horror and thrillers and was doing it all in a very interesting way until the very end, where the last, I would say, 10 minutes just had a few moments of, really?
Yeah,
You're doing that?
I
So,
mean, we'll say it right. I mean,
Where Sister Barnes is still alive
so
for 5
basically,
seconds.
yeah. So what happens
It was so
towards the end of the
goofy.
movie? Actually, it's so hard to explain because you sort of need to give the motivation for why he kills her and shit.
I can do it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do it quickly. Basically, this is what we're talking about. The end of the movie, one of the missionaries has already been killed. She's just lying there on the floor dead. And the whole plan and what Hugh Grant believes, which is kind of the tension of the movie, what does he actually believe, what is he trying to say, is revealed at the end to Sister Paxton. And she is like, "Lamau, you're crazy," knifes him, and then tries to get out of the house. And then as she's getting out of the house, somehow Hugh Grant still catches up to her, which was ridiculous, stabs her, and she's like dying and is giving a little prayer, you know, which Hugh Grant doesn't want. He doesn't want that religious prayer. And so he crawls over to her to try and knife her. And then Sister Barnes, who's been dead for like easily half an hour, jumps up, knifes Hugh Grant just to die. Like,
And then dies in
again.
Paxton's arms.
Dies again.
Does she knife him or like hit him with
It's with that
the
wooden,
plank? Yeah,
wooden
whatever,
plank with
yeah, the
nails
plank.
in it.
Ca-
But I think what Isaac wanted you to explain was the motivation, the motivation behind why Mr. Reed kills Sister Barnes in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be able to do the best job of that if you'd like to, which is essentially him going, what if I
Yeah.
told you there's a prophet in
Yes,
this room right now?
so Mr. Reed's basically, the way he's set up this entire movie is he's basically trying to trick them into doing what he wants, and he's got this plan to like, "Ooh, I'm revealing the truth about the one true religion."
Yeah.
And so he gets them into the second room and he gives them his show of like, this is, all the religions all have the same beliefs, blah blah blah, which is again
Using Monopoly as the analogy.
yeah. And then eventually he gets into he gets him into the basement, and he says, or he gets like a prophet to come out, who's like this decayed old woman, and he's like, all right, I'm going to kill her, and you're going to see a miracle. She's going to come back to life. And of course, blah blah blah, it happens, and it's like, well, actually, why did she come back to life? Oh,
Just some neurotoxin in the pie.
yeah,
right?
well, yeah. Barnes is like, it's actually she hallucinated. She didn't see heaven. She was just hallucinating. Because I had this experience. And then, why does he kill her again?
He goes, I'll do the same thing to you.
Yes.
To demonstrate it to Paxton. And
Oh no, because he panicked. He panicked because something went wrong. Because the prophet says it's not real, something like that.
And so what the women realize is that the sisters the prophets get switched.
Yeah.
And the prophet goes, it's not real.
I don't think Barnes realizes that because she's
Paxton
just
realizes.
Barnes is just, and then she gets killed by Mr. Reed, and he's like she was an AI made by the simulation. You can tell because she has the chip,
Which is just a
birth control.
Yeah. Which is also sort of subverting Paxton's, well, not subverting, but sort of bringing into question Paxton's views of Barnes.
Yeah, but she doesn't really care.
Obviously, being a Mormon, he's not supposed to abstain.
Anyway, yeah, so she gets killed, but that's basically that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing I really liked is how well the two Mormons are portrayed.
Yeah.
Like at the start of the movie, they're having that conversation. It's just a goofy little conversation about like sex and shit,
Porn.
Yeah.
and marriage, and it's like that is exactly how I assume those conversations go.
Yeah.
They're very naive and very and especially Paxton is very, because she was raised her whole life in the religion. She just fully.
Yeah.
There's that
No questioning.
One of the lines at the start is something like, oh, they don't believe it, but you do. Like, of course you do.
Yeah.
Just totally like, why would you not believe it?
Yeah.
And then Barnes has very clearly, you can tell she's not as much indoctrinated and
No.
And still questioning.
because she didn't grow up, she came into the church. But yeah, I mean, we might as well, I think, jump straight into what the movie is trying to say about religion in general.
Well, just before that, also the innocence of the two sisters
Sure.
riding their bikes,
Yeah.
etc. Still being very young.
Yeah.
I think that's an important sort of part of the plot, considering then they go into Mr. Reed's house and the theological battle that they have.
Well, I would say what makes the movie unique in terms of a horror thriller is like it's still a good movie, it's still a good thriller, and it's got a lot of tension. And Hugh Grant was fantastic in it, like really, really good. And the two, Chloe and Sophie, were really good in it as well. Like everyone's great, and it's a well-made movie, and it's got a lot of really nice little shots and blah, good music.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what makes it sort of a step above is the actual questions and debate that you can take out of it, and the analysis that one could do, like the questions that it's battling with in the movie, I think is what makes it a bit more interesting, because for the most part that is actually the tension.
Yeah.
It's who of these two opposing ideologies will win out in the end.
And the thing that I enjoyed so much is, and because we had a packed theater, Nick and I was sitting there, we're watching it, and throughout it, basically the entire would it be the first half maybe? Everyone in the audience is going, ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Every time Hugh Grant goes, look how dumb religion is. This is so dumb. Ha ha ha. It's just this.
Yeah.
And then when Barnes goes, actually your rhetoric sucks. This is like your critique is nonsensical. It's lazy. Blah blah blah. Everyone kind of goes, oh.
Yeah, there was just silence.
And that's why I've seen so many people like on Letterboxd and stuff review this movie as like, oh, it's just like listening to your atheist Reddit friend or something. And it's like, that's not what the movie is doing, because if it was doing that, Hugh Grant's character would be the good guy. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't come across as a total douchebag idiot, and they wouldn't allow Sister Barnes Paxton the space to show where he's wrong and so on. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like so obvious to me that the movie wasn't just going, atheism is so cool and religion is just dumb, and not actually giving good arguments for why. The movie isn't about the arguments for or against religion, I think, necessarily. It's more about
how one implements their faith in practice, I think. I think is the main thing.
Because like, if it was a movie about like religious arguments for religion, it would be boring, because you'd just be sitting there going through like deductions of this premise, conclusion. Like, who the hell is going to watch that? It's not the movie.
Because I mean, I think when you can look at all the different characters, and in a way, Mr. Reed, who is this atheist, is the most in control, the most dominant or powerful character. Yet, Sister Paxton, who you could argue is the dumbest character, maybe. Although they're all three of them are actually fairly sophisticated, that you realise throughout the movie. But she's morally the most virtuous. Mm-hmm. And I think because of her good nature is actually why she manages to sort of get out of these things.
So Mr. Reed reveals that the one true religion is control. Right.
But it
reveals his belief.
But it wasn't it that the one true religion is control, because that's actually what underpins all religion.
Yeah.
All different religions.
Yeah.
It's just this.
And again, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that is sort of.
But that was all his genius realization.
Yeah.
But what upset me was sort of, and I, whether you guys think it's justified or built well enough, I don't think Paxton's sudden realizations.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's seriously flawed. She's portrayed as the most naive, the least clued in.
In like 2 seconds, she becomes a super genius.
Yeah.
I would not. Nobody else would figure out.
It's like
what I think,
Holmes
Mr. Reed, is that you did this and that, and then it's like she took some fucking genius pill.
Yeah, and that's why that's one of the other reasons why I found the ending to just not be
because they basically wrote themselves into a corner. Like they had to.
Yeah, I think
there was no. Right. What else could they do? I mean, it would have been even more ridiculous if somehow some other person, like the dude who went out looking for them, managed to get into the house and was the one to save her / solve the riddle. Like she had to figure it out, but there wasn't enough sort of. It would have made more sense if Barnes
survived
because she, to me, I could see her figuring it out.
Well, she was clued in. She was the one that was getting.
But that's why it did do a good job at the shocking death.
That's why they had to kill her.
Yeah, it was like, oh, wow.
Stuff.
And I do think it was also interesting, just in terms of the characters. It wasn't like two religious people versus the atheist. It was an atheist, an agnostic, and
a religious
person.
Yeah.
And
because was that what did she have in her thing? A pill?
It was a birth control.
Pill.
So it's called a IUD.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called. I just know what they are.
Yeah, it's a piece of metal they put in you.
The bar. That's all I've ever heard it referred to as a bar. Yeah.
Yep. But
yeah, I mean,
I thought that was arguably the worst part of the film, is that sudden genius that is imparted into Paxton,
and
perhaps it's divine intervention.
Barnes coming back to life.
Yeah.
No, Barnes coming back to life. That's
so unbelievable.
There's not much more that I can't stand than resurrecting characters. I find it just the most lazy.
Jesus.
The most lazy writing ever. It's just like it's so cringe.
I liked at the end the song that comes on, and what is it? Is it the chords to creep?
She's in the snow.
But it's the chords to creep, and then the lyrics of...
Yeah, we got to mention that.
Oh, yeah.
Absolute banging music choices. Yeah. And they have Radiohead for a lot of it, and it was just so good.
But what's the song?
When he's singing Creep is so funny. Is it the original one? Or the Lana Del Rey one?
Lana Del Rey. Yeah. So it's the chords to Creep and then Lana Del Rey.
Well, actually, it's the chords to the original.
Which is called something or other.
All religions do the same thing. They just... reiterations.
Look, they're changing the chords.
And then he does he tries to compare like everyone's Jesus, dude.
But he's comparing like fucking ancient Egyptian gods.
They're actually nothing alike.
To Buddhism, to Judaism.
I feel like the similarities they might have is just like they're all like deities. And that's of course what Barnes points out. Like,
so the air that I breathe.
Your argument sucks, but you just have good rhetoric, and that hence the audience is going.
Well,
because they already hate. A lot of them already hate religion.
And that's what's interesting is like religion can be more or less persuasive depending on how it's delivered to you.
Exactly.
Which is what I found interesting was he was just a lot better at making a case, even though his case was full of shit. His case, the way he said it, was the best. And that's just a thing in general. Like you learn about this, the best lawyers, they could have not as good of substantive as somebody else, but if they present it in a more convincing way,
if the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
That's what makes Hugh Grant such a compelling lead.
Yeah,
as well as all his other films are just this over or intense charm.
Yeah,
and he has that unsettling charm.
He was really good. Yeah, we've spoken about this because the thing that's so interesting is that when he's on camera, there's no like fear. He's just like, he's there. When he's off camera, there's so much tension. Yeah. It's so scary.
But that's what I found, and that's another thing why I just enjoyed it was you could not have two, like, less, I guess you could say, stereotypical heroes of the story, like these two girls who possess no sort of utility in the sense of, like, when you watch a normal horror movie and whoever the survivors are able to fight and have weapons and do it, like, they can't do anything. And then Hugh Grant is like the least intimidating person ever. Like, when on paper you go, oh, Hugh Grant, you're trapped in a house with Hugh Grant. I'm like, bro,
Love Actually.
I'm like, yeah, no
the
problem.
Prime Minister.
Yeah, Notting Hill, I'll knock that guy out. No problem. Like, no problem. But in the movie, and that's why it's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
I had a great chuckle actually when the father comes to, like, check if the girls are there.
Do they call them the fathers?
Whatever it is.
Mormonism? I actually don't know.
Priest.
Isn't
who
it a
knows?
brother?
Brother.
Brother?
Anyway.
Pastor, maybe?
Pastor.
That's
It is
Protestant,
pastor.
actually, isn't it?
But I had
Don't know.
elder. They call it elder.
Elder, that's right.
Elder. But I had the biggest
Or
laugh.
it's like 40.
I had the biggest laugh when he goes in. Hugh Grant's like, nah, no one here, sorry. But then he comes back like 5 minutes later to deliver a pamphlet.
Yeah.
I was like, if that isn't, yeah.
Yeah. That's also, that was a little bit tropey.
Yeah, funny
Classic
stereotype.
guy leaves, and then he comes back and you're like, oh, and then it's a
It's a
not
double
actually-
bluff.
Yeah.
But I had a good chuckle. I was like, that's something I could see happening. But it was a good film, and it wasn't too long either, was it? It was an hour 40 or so?
No,
it
yeah.
wasn't long.
Hour 50. But just, yeah, Hugh Grant was awfully compelling.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that sort of, like, towards the end they have
Falls apart.
to deliver, like, the high stakes intense resolution, because then it would not be giving you, it would be very weird if you basically watch this movie and then she just believably figures out what he's trying to say and he just lets it go. He's like, all right, yeah, cool.
Yep. So
Sweet, bye.
What did we think then about the sort of mirrored board game of their interaction?
Oh, you mean like when she's running in the board game and then it's in there? That was a very good shot.
So that that was awesome. But is that just like doubling down on the analogy that Hugh Grant's trying to convey, or
I
just
think
a
it
cool
was,
artistic
I think
choice?
it's just a cool artistic choice.
I
I
thought it
didn't
was-
see it as some sort of, because what is it else does it say? Nothing really.
Well, it's that sort of system of control. Hugh Grant had a board game
Yeah,
developed
doing everything.
Sure,
as
You-
per plan,
yeah.
etc.
sure, but I think that was clear.
But it was also
without
just
it,
like a
so.
Yeah, it was a sort of bird's eye view where you just like
It's just a nice
look
shot.
at a piece of architecture. It was
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
And that's what they did do, is they had some awesome choices in this film. Great set design.
Hmm.
Really, really well made in terms of the aesthetic.
Hmm.
You know, with that main room being a church or
Hmm.
a shrine in a sense, with the pews, etc. But I think it does fall apart, like we said, and that is unfortunate considering its build-up.
What was going on with the water dripping thing?
I think that was just to
Eerie.
literally add some sort of
Make it eerie.
uneasy
Yeah.
sort of feeling to it, because you know the drop of water symbolizes time.
But that was
And
but
things
that
like
was
that.
just a lot of that. Like, there were weird. Remember that weird statue in the hallway?
Well, yeah.
It was just a statue, but they thought it was some guy standing at the end of the hallway. And you're like, oh fuck.
Every time I drive home from work, there's a electrical box that has a hat permanently sitting on it, and when the moon casts the right shadow, it looks like a man standing.
Yeah,
Every
right.
time I think that, and it's pretty cool. But same thing there, and then you got clocks and the electricity shuts off, doors on timers. Everything about the house is just super unsettling and adds to Hugh Grant's character. And even when Isaac said when he's not there, he's still there because his house is so fucking strange.
Yeah.
But the water is just there to unsettle.
But and I think that's an interesting thing. It's just throwing things in there just to add tension, which I think is good. Like, it's a bit of a red herring. Like, what does that mean? It actually means nothing, but it builds up that tension. Like, for me, when the subtler it was, the better it was, in the sense of, like, I thought the most intense part was at the start when they held up the candle and it said blueberry pie.
Yeah.
I thought that was so great. I was like, oh wow, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
my favourite part is certainly in the front lounge room. I think that's
Yeah,
what's
it's the best part.
yeah. And then
I think, funnily enough, I think each scene gets worse. But
Yeah.
Like, it's ordered in best scene.
Yeah. But like, as soon as they go downstairs,
Yeah.
there's a significant step down in quality.
Because then it becomes a horror movie that's
Yeah,
very
precisely.
stereotypically horror, not
Yeah, like,
Interesting.
you have to have some super creepy looking woman. And that's why, like, that's full
Yeah,
Barbarian.
do that like
Because that
and
is
do that,
literally
like, weird like.
I won't
Yeah,
spoil
turn
it for you
into, like-
because you guys should watch Barbarian because it's so awesome. Like, yeah, it's so awesome. But in Barbarian, essentially, you got these people who both turn up to an Airbnb by mistake.
Yeah, I've seen
and
this.
then
I've
there's
seen
a
the
door
trailers.
to some basement open, and they're going, "What the fuck's that?" And then they go down into the basement, and then you can open up this door, and it leads into this further deeper basement, and there's something down there, and it looked just like the scene in Heretic, and it was so scary.
Well, I was saying to Isaac, the scariest video game I've ever played is called Outlast.
right.
And it's essentially this television crew like flying into the Appalachian Trail, and their helicopter crashes, and they end up in a religious commune.
Yeah.
And Heretic figures, when done right in horror films,
Yeah.
are the most disturbing, unsettling, fucking scary characters. And in this film, I wasn't scared at all by the Prophet,
No.
which is a shame.
But that's
If you've got the unsettling, scary nature of Hugh
Just
Grant's
gross,
character,
man.
and then you've got a deeply disturbing heretic figure, or seemingly heretic figure, it's even more uneasy.
yeah.
But I feel as soon as it becomes a horror, all the tension disappears,
well,
which is a shame.
I still think there was a lot of. I wouldn't say that. I think there was still a lot of tension in it, but I was never intimidated by the prophet woman, because when I was sitting there, I knew that this was just some sort of test by Hugh Grant. Like, I didn't think that Hugh Grant had somehow come across some
The one.
demonic beast that can raise from the dead. I was like, nah, this is just something like this is another form of test, which was interesting because I was wondering, what's he trying to prove here? Where is this going?
Yeah, but my
yeah.
point is, the prophet itself, as a character, had the chance to double down or add another layer to the intensity and the tension,
Right.
but I feel like peels away from it instead. Because Hugh Grant's character's done such a good job in the writing.
But I think that was done because, and this was the problem with the ending, is they're trying their very best to avoid horror cliches
Yeah.
and somehow deliver you a thriller and a horror movie without actually giving you any of the conventions until they get right to the end, where there's literally
People coming back
nothing,
from the dead,
nothing
saying-
they can do. Like right at the end
Yeah.
there, where something has to be revealed and there has to be some sort of climax, you know?
So it's interesting, there's two actual directors for this film,
Also,
and they haven't done much. I think this is like debut film sort of territory. They both did 65, which is that terrible Adam Driver film
That
with
was so
the dinosaurs.
awful. Oh my God.
So this is certainly a very big step up. But I wonder how much influence either had over the other. Whether it's sort of
yeah, I don't know.
one
We know that good directing duos can happen because you got like the Coen brothers,
but they live together
who are
a lot.
geniuses. But you know, anyway,
the thing that is so kind of silly to me is Hugh Grant hates religion because it's all about control. But his whole thing is that he's also doing that, and he's like trying to prove a point. It's like it's the most fucking retarded.
but I think that actually is part of the
No, I
criticism.
know.
Is that
That's what I mean though. Like that's
atheists and religious people are both hypocrites.
yeah.
in their
I just
way.
don't understand like how people can watch this movie and just think it's like some guy ranting about religion and that's the movie.
Yeah,
It's so obvious to me that that's not at all. Like it's just not that one dimensional. You know?
no,
I don't know.
I'm ready to give ratings. Are you two? Anything else to say?
I don't think so.
I think I like this film because it takes risks and it does such a great job for most of it in
Yeah,
creating an intense and engaging story. It's just a shame how poorly it falls apart. Like a few films we've seen recently in the latter acts.
yeah,
I'm split actually
yeah,
between a 3 and a 3.5.
yeah.
We'll go 3.5 for now.
So out of 10.
That's a 7.
I know, but you gotta say it, man. We do a 10 scale rating here.
7 out of 10.
Thank you. I think I'll give it a 7.
I was going to give it a 7 as well.
Here we go.
Yeah. All right.
Well, now we've got
Wonderful.
Bowie's pick for the month.
Which was North by Northwest by Mr. Alfred Hitchcock.
The infamous.
Truly a blessing.
You may not have heard of this guy.
Yeah.
he's pretty.
He's an underground director.
He's very red-faced.
very indie director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bit old now.
He's a bit old.
Bit old, indeed. Yeah. So this is a movie about Don Draper. It's about an advertising guy gets mistaken for this secret agent who doesn't actually exist. It's a fake person that the CIA or something uses.
Yeah, it's a persona.
Yeah, and the CIA people are trying to catch this criminal, and the criminal who thinks Cary Grant is this persona wants to kill him, and so the movie is basically Cary Grant on the run.
Well, because I just have to say, because basically the CIA have an agent in this criminal's organization.
Yes.
And they were afraid that the criminal would find the agent out. And so they created this fake agent for him to go after so that she would remain anonymous.
And then, Cary Grant's character stumbles into that persona.
Yeah. Right, totally by accident, the criminal suddenly believes that Cary Grant is this fictitious spy.
And by like pure, I would say luck, but it's skill. Because they try to kill him, like they make him drunk, get him to drive off the cliff.
But he's just a weapon.
But he's clearly a very good drunk driver.
As everyone should have been in the 50s
He must do it
60s.
quite often.
Yeah.
And so he's drives and survives. But the thing that's interesting, of course, in the movie is that he sort of has a love affair with the secret agent.
Yeah.
And it becomes, messy because at a certain point he doesn't know she's a secret agent.
Yeah.
And he believes she's part of the enemy organization.
Yeah.
And there's red herrings, double bluffs.
Well, it was twist on twist because first it was revealed that she works for the criminal organization, and you're like, oh wow, what a psycho bitch, and then all of a sudden it's revealed no, she's actually the agent.
And
And then one of the best parts of the film is when you realize Cars 2 ripped the entire thing off.
Oh yeah, dude, that was the best thing, bro. When I realized
hilarious.
this is just Cars 2.
Because Isaac picked it and Nick happened to have the DVD, which was just awesome.
Yeah.
So we watched it at mine. It was just a great film to watch.
Bro, literally, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this reminds me of something. What the hell does this remind me of? I was like, holy fuck, it's Cars 2.
Yeah, because you've got Finn McMissile and Mater is Cary Grant.
Mater's playing the sort of accidental, mistaken... It's literally insane how much it's so similar.
And it works in Cars 2. I know Cars 2 is a hated film.
I actually think Cars 2 is so much fun.
As a kid, I loved it.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to watch it again for fun because
Yeah.
Finn McMissile's an awesome James Bond-esque villain, spy. And
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Have you seen Cars 2?
When I was like 5.
it's like the one with the silver Aston
I
Martin.
never watched it. I never watched it.
This is the thing that's great, right? The first Cars movie is just about racing. Cars 2
I watched
is
the Cars one a lot.
This spy-like thriller that has the racing as its like setting.
Right.
And so I can't remember in North by Northwest, what's the villain's motive? What's it? He's trying to get something overseas, right?
I think he's some sort of importer/exporter.
Yeah. And
I
so
don't know what they do there.
in Cars 2, there's just a guy trying to...
What do they import or export?
No, because wasn't it that they were trying to get the receipt, or that's what they were after?
No, they're one of those photos. They work with, I think, Russia. And it's information that they trade.
McCarthy.
That's right.
Yeah. This would have been the Red Scare time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all just after World War II, 15 years
this
or
would
so.
have been
full
inspired by... Well, when was McCarthyism starting? Like...
Mid-50s, early 50s, I think.
Yeah.
53 or something.
So I want to get right in. Like, there's so many things to talk about. But one is that it's got so many amazing set pieces in the movie,
Yes.
and just a lot of great dialogue, and just good conversation.
Everything about it's great. The editing is amazing too.
Yeah.
The editing is so good.
But there's a lot of very famous scenes in it. Like, obviously the ending. I found it after looking it up that the Mount Rushmore whole thing was very famous. But the most famous is when he gets attacked by this plane.
Duster.
Where he's out, which was such an awesome scene because he gets off this bus and he's standing in the middle of fucking nowhere, and then all of a sudden this plane comes down and starts shooting at him, and it was crazy.
Oh yeah,
because back then it was all practically done, and so you've actually got Cary Grant ducking while this plane is fucking flying right over him.
And I was telling Dad last night that we were filming the podcast today.
Yeah.
He goes, what are you doing? I said North by Northwest, and he goes, "Is that the one with the plane?"
Yeah.
It is one of the most famous set pieces in film, I think. Or at least for film
I
buffs.
remember this movie as the movie with the train.
Well, because the train's the most intriguing.
How funny is that last edit though? That last cut to the train entering the tunnel.
Yeah.
Hitchcock called it the most erotic, sensual edit he's ever done.
Hitchcock is such a douchebag, right?
Yeah, calls his actors cattle.
Yeah,
that whole story.
And he just messes with them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his whole thing was you got to just treat your actors like cattle.
Well, my favorite because it shows how insane, and he's like a prankster, right?
Yeah.
He has on the Birds movie. There's a scene where the main character is in a room and the birds are attacking her.
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure he just kept redoing it over and over again just to fuck with her.
Yeah.
And she was like terrified. Or
I
some
remember you
shit.
saying that. Yeah.
Nah, but I mean,
Hitchcock, man.
Hitchcock is amazing, and this is a very, very good movie. It's not like one of his best
I think it's up there. I've only seen this is my fourth. I think.
because I'm trying to think like
Psycho, Vertigo, Rear Window,
Rear Window,
Rope.
my
The Birds,
favorite.
Rope. Rope's
Rear-
your favorite, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Rear Window's my favorite, and then probably Vertigo.
I've got Rear Window, Vertigo, and then this. This is better than Psycho.
Rope, Rear Window, North by Northwest. Maybe.
Rope.
I don't remember liking Vertigo that much, and like compared to these, obviously.
Well, I watched it 4 years ago now.
Well, yeah, I haven't watched it since we were in school. I
Grade
don't
10
think.
or 11.
Yeah.
But what this does is it's consistently excellent throughout. There's no sort of real weak link in the film.
Right.
Whereas I remember when I watched Psycho, one of the halves, I think it's the first is excellent and the second is terrible, or the second is
Well, the
excellent.
first half
the-
builds up to the shower scene, which is halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
And then the second half is them figuring out that the fact that the main character
Oh.
got murked.
Just want to read my review. Yeah,
mean,
so the
it's-
second and third acts are excellent in Psycho, in my opinion, and the first is relatively average.
Yeah.
This is just consistently great, in my
Okay.
opinion. There's no, weak act. You know, because you've got the initial development of the mansion and him assuming the persona accidentally, and the cops and arguing against the judge, which is hilarious. 'Cause
Yeah.
he takes a stand and is yelling, and there's people going nuts.
Yeah.
And then the train.
It's what it
And
does.
then the
What it does.
plane.
What it does perfectly is there are so many different little twists, and they pace them out like perfectly. So you're just kind of understanding what's happening. Like, because I'll say this, I just watched Memento.
Oh,
I
yeah.
watched Memento like 2 days ago, and
Yeah.
it was fucking amazing. And that is another example. Like, it's very Hitchcockian, I would say, because the way he paced it, obviously, it's very different because he's fucking with time and playing the whole movie in reverse. But pacing wise, it is ultra similar to like a classic Hitchcock like this, like North by Northwest, where very slowly he paces out the different twists until they're all like tiny twists, and they're basically just kernels of information before you get to the big ending where it all culminates. Memento obviously culminates right at the very end where everything is actually revealed, whereas North by Northwest, I think, is probably a little bit better in the sense that it just builds it up.
Yeah.
It's not like you get to the end and there's a massive information dump like Heretic, where at the end they just go, boom, this is what we were saying. Like North by Northwest just builds up naturally to the whole mansion into the Mount Rushmore moment, which is, that's where everything's, you already know what's happening. And now it's just about survival and resolution.
Yes.
But very, very cool.
The one thing I remember while we were watching it, I sort of was like, is this worse for the movie when they reveal that the persona is like CIA and it's not real? They have that
Well, yeah, we
little
talked about
professors.
this, yeah.
And I of course, while that happened, I sort of felt like it takes away from it. But of course, without that, they don't have the ability to structure the rest of the movie the way they do. And I think that would be much more boring if we didn't have, because you get so much tension from the fact that you know that he doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
And,
No,
then,
we
and then all the other
talked about
characters
that while
playing
we were
around.
watching it.
Yeah, the fact that no one really knows.
But you also didn't know who the real spy was. And that was revealed way later. So you still had that question.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But that's why it became, I think we discussed that at the time, why it was a better choice, because once you knew that this spy didn't exist, you're like, well, how's he going to get out of this situation?
Exactly, yeah.
He can't go and find the real guy.
Well, that was
And then,
always
it,
his
and then it's
go-to.
doubled down when it appears she kills him
Yeah.
with the bullet.
Oh, that's
in
right.
The, in
yeah.
the restaurant
Yeah,
Yeah,
and things like that. But he's
Facebook.
clued into the fact now that she's... Well, because it's a rubber
Yes.
bullet, he gets hit and he fakes
Yes.
dead
Old Russian
for
trick.
the villain.
Yeah.
And anyway, I just think everything about this is
Yeah, that was
excellent.
great.
Perfectly written.
And then when the henchman is trying to like reveal to the main villain, like, dude, she's a secret agent. He's like, no. And then
because he's just lusting after
yeah,
her.
and then what is it that happens that makes him go, oh, okay, it's like
There
in that
was-
house.
It's
What,
the earring.
oh, it's something. Oh, fuck.
Oh, he
is it?
finds the gun.
Ah, yes, it's the gun, and because the guy shoots him.
Yeah.
He goes bang.
Yeah, and it's a blank.
And he's like, oh.
But and as you said, the editing is excellent, far ahead of its time. There's some
But that
So
was
good.
just a universal Hitchcock thing. I mean,
Yeah.
his edits and also just like He was basically the Agatha Christie for movies. Like, he would just write the most... Well, he didn't write them, but he would just create the most amazing, like, mystery movies.
Yeah.
So in nearly all of his films, he uses the same editor,
I could see that.
George Tomasini.
Did he do Vertigo and all that shit?
Yeah, Vertigo, Rear Window, The Birds, North by Northwest,
Only
Psycho,
George
Catch a
Lucas did the
Thief.
same thing with
Yeah.
Star Wars.
So what I only realized
Really?
while looking
Oh,
at...
because his wife is who made the original trilogy, or at least the first movie, so good.
Yeah.
And then
That's
the prequels don't have her, so it's like
That's what I always found so funny about when you think about the original Star Wars trilogy is George only actually directed the first one.
yeah, and
Which I actually thought was
and it was originally terrible.
Yeah,
It was
but I
saved
thought that
in the
was a
edit.
good idea,
Yeah,
like, to get different
And
directors
then he
on.
had
He's-
Irvin
'cause-
Kershner.
The
Yeah.
thing that's interesting about
Empire.
George Lucas is that he clearly has a very, like, at least with Star Wars, he had a very great idea, and the world is so rich. But I
Yeah.
mean, the guy is. I just think he needs someone else to tame the idea. You know.
That's crazy.
It was like, what was that movie we watched where it's the same thing? Like, someone needs to refine his artistic temperament. What was it? No. It wasn't Megalopolis.
Ari
was it?
Aster?
No.
I was afraid
Something
of
we watched
stuff. I think
recently
that's
or what?
fair enough.
Yeah, anyway,
That's
it'll
crazy
come
on
to me
Letterboxd.
later, but someone, yeah.
On Letterboxd, every Star Wars movie is Star Wars episode, but then Return of the Jedi is just Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Strange.
It's very
Well, actually, that's a... Well, no, because remember that was the original title. They went...
Oh, did they not go Star Wars Episode 6?
No, because
Wow.
it wasn't... The prequels didn't exist. And he didn't
True.
know that he was going to do those.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
when
Star
they-
Wars and The Empire Strikes Back are the same. Apologies.
And so the New Hope was just called Star
Star
Wars.
Wars,
And
yeah.
the second one was just called The Empire Strikes Back.
And that's what they're at. Yeah,
And then
apologies.
they rewrote them to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
The letterbox is accurate.
Yeah.
But
We digress from Star Wars.
back to North by Northwest, Isaac also noticed the influence the mansion at the end had on, was it?
Oh, Kim Possible.
Yeah.
I was excited to talk about this. Yeah, the fucking house of the evil dude is Kim Possible's house in Kim Possible.
I think
So
I don't,
awesome,
I don't
bro.
know what that is.
Well, see, I never,
So awesome,
I
bro.
never watched Kim Possible, but I searched it up when you said that, and it's the exact same.
That's something that's cool. Like that I think it shows you the influence this movie's had
Yeah.
in the zeitgeist, because
Yeah.
Kim Possible has nothing to. I mean, I guess it's a spy movie, a spy show. So
And so I've just checked. It's inspired by a true story from World War II.
really,
So a journalist's notebooks
that's really
is
interesting.
the sort of the passion for the core idea
Yeah.
or the motive. But you know, all the reviews are inspired the modern action film. It's brilliant.
Well, so before this movie, what were action films like? I don't think I've even seen an action film before.
I've seen very few films before this one.
What movies have come out before the 50s that were action? Nothing.
We had
really.
Westerns, probably, would be
Yeah,
the closest
Westerns
thing
are
to
very
action.
different.
Westerns were also 60s, 50s. You got the John.
That is interesting. So
No,
this
but
movie
Westerns,
really is
Westerns
like,
were out in the 40s.
Yeah.
This is really kind of a staple of
It's...
action history.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say it's more thriller. I mean, it's got a couple of
sure,
set
yeah.
pieces, but
I
it's
guess
more
it's
of
not
a
an action
development
movie.
into the modern thriller.
That's what- yeah.
It's
okay.
both action thriller action.
Sure.
It's a great combination of the
But
genres.
but some it depends because some action thrillers lead more into one or the other genre. So you
Yeah.
can see some
More
action
of a
thrillers
thriller.
where there's tons. Like
Yeah.
Jason Bourne was considered an action thriller, the original one.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of hand-to-hand combat. Cary Grant isn't beating the fuck out of anyone.
Well,
in this
yeah.
movie.
I mean, the action scene at the end of like them climbing. If you watched that in a theater today, you'd be like,
Christ, it looks rough.
you'd be like,
Yeah.
that's action? But
that was
when
the
you're watching this
whole-
movie, you're like, woo-hoo-hoo.
But that was the whole thing, and that's why I really like sort of when you watch older movies because they tend to restrain as much as they can from actual action. So when it happens, like when you watch old westerns, there are very few shootouts, and when they happen, there's so much build up to them, and then there'll actually only be a few seconds of pistol firing, but it's so like whoa, someone's getting killed.
The only other action films you've really got are also the the first Kurosawa samurai films.
when are they?
50s,
Early 50s.
50s.
And then war films as well,
Sure.
immediately after World War II films, so
Yeah.
Paths of Glory. But
Yeah.
they're also very drama, thriller.
Well, Paths of Glory has one battle scene, but it's
Yeah.
more about the trial
exactly,
of
for
these men.
drama.
The Searchers has like that shootout across the.
The Searchers has a few,
That one's really.
but John Ford
Sick.
was revolutionary in terms of action. No one filmed like action like him at the time, where you were sort of doing a lot of dolly following horses running along and smashing and blowing shit up and
Sort of, yeah.
whatever.
That is
Yeah.
actually cool. It's interesting to see, like, and then you get like people like Michael Bay, you know, today, and it's just, how many fucking explosions can we fit into 10
To
minutes?
satisfy Josh Hunter.
Yeah.
But that's the problem with people nowadays. Like, you watch TikTok or whatever, and your brain can't not just have nothing. It needs to have stimulation. That's why all modern action movies, like if you had a modern action thriller, it would be 95% action.
It's Mission Impossible.
There'd be no
Fast and
thriller.
Furious.
Well, Mission Impossible, I would say, is different.
The
because-
first one, at least, is very...
But Mission Impossible, even the new ones, actually, they do a few things. They pace out the action. There's a lot of build-up to it, but the action is also done in that traditional, I would say, North by Northwest style, where practicality is king. Because practicality is what creates
Yeah.
tension, because there's tangibility to what you're seeing.
Tom Cruise, although he's a strange man, certainly has
He's a fucking
great
legend.
and
He
deep
knows-
respect for cinema.
Yeah.
Huge. And he's talked about how those old classics, like old westerns, influenced the way.
Well, yeah,
And they only-
there's articles saying it influences North by Northwest.
Yeah.
It's got Mission
Oh, the
Impossible.
train in the first one.
Yeah, train
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
But there's also plane scenes
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
The
and whatever.
biggest disappointing thing about Tom Cruise is I am unavailable to see Eyes Wide Shut that's screening on Wednesday night
Oh, is
I
it?
know that.
at Palace. I'm deeply upset because I would have chilled to
Christian
see that
will
in
probably
cinema.
go.
Yeah, I don't think he knows, but yeah, it's one of his favorite films now,
Yeah.
and I can see why.
Yeah.
But North by Northwest, excellent.
Excellent. Yeah, we're now digressing.
We're
Because
digressing.
we know it's
I was-
we know it's a good movie, and we're kind of running
I
out of
was
things
gonna
to say. We're back. There was a little fucking technical error, but we're back.
Intermission, Space Odyssey.
Yeah, everyone go out, have a break, come back.
Yeah, and
So-
so such a long episode, like June too.
Correct. Now you were going to just make a quick point about Mission Impossible.
Oh, I don't know if I already said it, but if I did, I don't know. Anyway, Mission Impossible, all the movies are good except for the second one.
and that's
pretty
the fucking
impressive.
one that's set in Australia. Like,
Yeah,
way to
it's
shit
sad.
on our country.
Yeah, but that is
I've
pretty
seen
impressive.
very few of them.
Dude, you should
Dude,
sit down and watch them. They're
Dude,
really
it's,
fun.
it's
I
the
will.
best action franchise.
Even the second one is funny because there's half the movie is just in slow motion for no reason.
Yeah. Doesn't it start with him like rock climbing in Utah?
Yeah, it's all.
He's just
and
like
the
a
Ends up
villain
in
is-
Australia and
Yeah.
he's rock
Ends up in
climbing in
Australia.
Utah.
Yeah, it's just him like going free
That's because
solo.
Yeah.
he was
about to say.
with Nicole Kidman at the time. I
Yeah.
think he wanted to like
Yes,
do some
Eyes
shit. in
Wide Shut.
Australia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
we were getting to the
great.
point of wrapping up North by Northwest.
What else is there to say?
Fucking nothing. Go watch it.
So good.
Yeah,
It's seriously
definitely
so good.
because it's how long is it? 2 and a bit, 2.5.
It felt
I think
not
it's just
long.
over 2.
It felt quite short, but
But-
that's just 'cause it's great.
It is, yeah, absolutely excellent.
I love watching Hitchcock. There's something so deliberate in how his movies are made, and it just
it's Tunica,
it just
yeah.
feels so nice. Just sit there and go like, oh my god, someone has just perfectly put this together,
Uh-huh.
and you get to enjoy things coming out, and the sort of emphasis on making sure every sort of small part has a purpose.
Well,
It's
and
just
the,
brilliant.
And the older the film, the more intentional everything
But
is
is-
because
Yeah.
of the time and effort required to develop and put it together.
But when you think about it as well, like his movies a lot of the time tend to give you like everything that you want. Like if I think about Rear Window, which is my favorite one, it's got romance, it's got thriller, it's funny, it's dramatic, it's intense. Like it gives you everything that
Yeah.
you want.
He's
like,
just one of the complete directors.
He
Yeah.
might just be up there.
Well, I
as the
think
goat.
you've got only a few other names you can sort of throw out there.
it sort of depends on like what you would consider.
I think what you want.
What you consider the goat to be.
Personal
Because
taste, I think.
I mean, I can see the argument for Kurosawa because I think he
Uh-huh.
also does the same thing. I think he can do comedy and drama and action all and like Kubrick, of course.
I mean, who do you put up there?
Kubrick,
Hitchcock, Kurosawa, Scorsese has
Scorsese.
to be.
He would be up there.
I mean, even Tarantino, but I feel like Tarantino's like not as.
He's a but
Rough
he's a
coded.
he's a niche. He's a
Yeah.
niche unto himself.
I think those are the top four.
Because
Bergman
they're-
has also got
Bergman's
a
great,
shout.
but Bergman
Again, I feel
only
like-
makes one sort of type of movie.
Yeah.
I've never seen a really
No one-
funny
No, he's
or an
literally just got
action-packed
the
Bergman movie.
slow burn.
Slow burn.
The Seventh Seal is a little bit funny every now and then, but that's not the movie. It's not
No.
comedy.
Yeah.
I think
Ends with
the
them all
arguments
dying.
for
I mean, it's-
the arguments for Hitchcock and Kurosawa are the fact that they are truly leading the pack in terms of everyone else at the time.
Revolution.
Yeah.
Whereas Kubrick had contemporaries that were also very excellent. I think what Kubrick does though is produce the most refined.
He
films
produces the
of
most
everyone.
refined, but I find the best argument for Kubrick is the fact that he never made the same movie twice.
Yeah.
And whenever he tried his hand at a particular genre,
He
he
did it.
would make the best of that genre.
Uh-huh.
So Barry Lyndon is the best period piece ever. The Shining is considered the greatest horror movie ever. It's the only horror movie
Space
ever
Odyssey is
made.
best sci-fi.
Space Odyssey
ever.
is sci-fi.
movie ever.
Yeah, well, there you go.
You know,
exactly.
And, like, Paths of Glory is a unique war movie, and he only did another one, which was Full Metal Jacket. But they could not be more different.
Yeah, they're not the
And,
same thing.
and I still think Eyes Wide Shut is as good, just only slightly worse than the rest. It is
Yeah.
an excellent film. I don't think it gets the recognition it deserves.
I think that as well about Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
The reason also
fucking hilarious,
things that he
insane.
didn't- but it's disturbing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of his movies are very disturbing, and he does it in such a subtle way.
Speaking of disturbing, there was this waitress at dinner the other night that had the Kubrick stare. Unintentionally.
I might start hitting the Kubrick stare, actually.
Unintentionally. It was the most... I'd just be eating my Greek, and then...
That was actually good.
I'd be eating my Greek, and I'd look over, and this lady's just looking at us, and I just, it was fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
Back to
digression.
North by Northwest. Hitchcock, excellent film, excellent ratings.
I'm going a 9 out of 10.
Likewise,
I'm gonna give it an 8.
there we
Aye,
go.
aye, aye. All right, that's that.
Thank you, Alfred.
On to
So some stuff. So first of all, because we've been gone, we're just gonna do a few little housekeeping things before I do my recommendation. So we've been gone for 2 months, and so normally we do, like, at the end of December we do our best of the year thing, but there's a couple of caveats this year. Number one, because it's just been a bit more hectic, we've missed like 2 months worth of movies overall in terms of episodes, so we've got way less options to make a list.
It's not looking pretty at the moment.
Not really. So it's like a top 3 basically. So what we're going to do is, and another thing with Australia is, in America, the award season movies tend to come out in December, and we get them in January just for distribution.
Yeah, Boxing Day, essentially.
Bullshit. From Boxing Day to
The
like
first.
towards the end of January is all your award season like dope movies. So what we've decided to do is we're going to be doing 2 episodes fairly quickly. Right after New Year's, we're going to do an episode, and we're going to be doing Nosferatu, and we're going to be doing Anora.
So Sean Baker, Robert Eggers,
It's going to be a goated
and
episode
a Nick's pick that will be coming out soon.
in a second. And that episode will be included in our 2024 Best of the Year list,
Yeah,
which we'll
2024
post.
wrapped. Top
Which
5
we'll post.
films.
Which we'll post right at the end of.
we do a Fabs wrapped.
Yeah.
Top 1 genre.
I might like edit it like a rap.
We can do it, yeah.
But it will be be posted, like second week of January.
So we do like an Instagram post where you slide through the same way you do on a story. Yeah.
We absolutely. Get
and then our
copyright.
first episode of 2025 will be coming out just a couple of weeks later, because we're going to be away for all of February.
Faps is going on tour, ladies and
we
gentlemen.
are indeed.
And we'll be doing A Complete
get
Unknown,
shirts.
and we're going to be doing The Brutalist as well
So-
as Marlon will pick something.
So Adrian Brody, and then Timothy Chalamet,
Yeah.
Bob
Bob Dylan.
It's gonna be so interesting.
So
Excited for that.
yeah, essentially
Guns
in
in the
January, you're getting 2 episodes.
Lucky you.
And
How does it feel?
all of the episodes are going to be incredibly dope because there's a lot of good stuff coming out. So, my pick for
The first January installment.
I'm going to do Harold and Maude by Hal Ashby. That is going to be my pick.
What?
The heck is that? Say that again.
And Harold and Maude.
Oh,
It's
wait.
been a movie that I've wanted to see for ages, and I've heard it's awesome.
How do you spell Maud?
Maude.
Oh, Maud. Maud.
It's Maude.
Maud.
Ollie had a girlfriend called Maud in like grade 8,
Did he?
if you remember.
My goodness, that's hideous.
Wow.
So Harold-
Maud is like
okay.
a name that you don't have.
So I've heard
70.
unbelievably great things. The reason I
Oh.
want to watch it is because the music is by Cat Stevens. Like, he composed it for
awesome.
the movie.
Sorry, Roger
And you
Ebert
get it.
doesn't like it, Nick.
I don't give a fuck.
Only
And
90 minutes.
yeah, I've
Excellent.
heard it's really funny because it's about a guy who basically just does all these fake suicides and then meets up with this 80-year-old woman, and they become like good mates.
Sounds
And I'm like, this sounds epic.
Hal Ashby.
Yeah.
Cat Stevens, lots of fake suicides. I'm all for that.
Awesome.
What has hell Ashby done, bro?
Being
Who is this guy?
Nothing I've heard of. A Neil Young documentary.
Let's-
Solo trans. Interesting.
Anyway, there you go.
Anyway.
Thank you
That's what we're
for
doing.
listening. and for your
Yes.
patience in lieu of our episodes.
Yes.
Yep.
We hope you're having a wonderful Christmas period
But we are going to make up for it with 2 episodes
and
of January.
enjoying the festivities and the
Spam in the work.
terrible heat in Brisbane, Australia.
Yes. Merry Christmas.
And a happy...
And we literally are going to go straight out
Yeah.
of like hot, stinky Brisbane to cold as
Freezing
hell
cold.
Europe.
Yeah.
Because Fap's on tour. There might even be a vlog. You don't know. It's going to be fucking
We'll see what
wild.
we will
happens.
see. We
Yeah.
are multimodal.
Because
We're a multi
creators.
channel.
we will be doing. We could do an underground. What is it called? Incognito.
Incognito.
Fap's
we could do a
Incognito.
Fap's Incognito.
In
Because we're going to do.
Or on a farm in Norway.
We're going to
outside in
do.
the snow. Oh.
Because we really wanted to do Queer by Luca Guadagnino.
Yes,
but
which
we're
will
not
be
going
out
to.
while we're in Paris.
The first week we're gone is when it comes out. So we're going to watch it while
gonna
we're
be so
away.
sick.
He's churning out good films, isn't he?
Yeah, he's banging shit out, bro.
Excellent.
So we're gonna do Queer while we're away, and we might even do a cheeky Incognito.
Well,
you're welcome, society.
Thanks a lot for listening, and Merry Christmas.
Thank
See
you,
you guys. Thank you.
Cheers.
See you in the new year.